My name is Amanda Berry. I'm 20 years old, and I found out I was pregnant when I was about 2.5 months pregnant. I didn't tell my parents for probably 2 weeks, and by then I was 3 months pregnant, and they wanted to do something about it. What ended up happening is my parents asked me to have an abortion, and I didn't want to at all in any way, shape, or form. They took me to a clinic, and they had me sign all the paperwork and stuff, and I'm very loyal to my parents, and I didn't feel like I could not do what they asked me to do. So the day actually came, and I remember crying in the shower for forever before going in for this stupid procedure, and just asking, like, God, why that it was happening, and sorry, being upset about all of it and not knowing how to handle it, and just begging him to find another way. And we went in, and after 3 months, it's a 2-step procedure for an abortion. So you have to go in once, and then you wait 24 to 48 hours, and then you go back in, and then they do the second step. So what they do is they put a laminera in, which is like seaweed, I think, and they insert it into the entry to the uterus, and what it does is, because it's so moist in there, it expands, allowing for the bag to drop and pop. But they put the laminera in, and I was just laying there, like, because you don't really feel anything at that point in time. Like, at 3 months pregnant, you don't really register that you're pregnant, and you don't really think about what's happening. And especially when you're so stressed out and all that stuff, and you just don't want to be stressed out, you just kind of block it out. And then we walked out of the clinic, and I remember seeing 2 of the girls from my small group. They're actually the girls that I was closest to, and they had appeared out of nowhere. I didn't tell them which clinic it was or anything. They just knew I was going to a clinic to do that. They didn't know where it was or anything, so the fact that they showed up at the right clinic was probably an act of God. At that point, I had made up my mind that I was going with my friends. We were talking about what I wanted to do, and they left me alone downstairs for a little bit to think about what I wanted to do, and I was like, I don't want to have an abortion. I don't want to deal with this. I was like, pregnancy and having a child is going to be really emotionally difficult and traumatic for me and my family and everything that's going on. I was like, but I would just feel so wrong doing this. So then I told them, and they're like, okay, where's the nearest hospital? Like, we started like sorting out all this stuff. So they got me to St. Anne's, and we were talking to the doctors and explaining the situation, and the doctor just looked at me and he goes, nobody in Ohio has had this reversed or anything or taken out. He's like, I have no idea how to even do this. He's like, so I have to call someone. So then they removed it, and they told me that it was successful and that I wasn't too far dilated. I'd come in at the right time. If I had been an hour later, I would have been dilated enough that the bag would have fell through and popped or something. And so they told me to just rest there for a little bit. So then I went home, and of course my mom was like, whatever you want, just whatever you want, we'll do whatever you want. She's like, just stay home with us. She's like, your uncle's here, we won't force you to do anything, he'll make sure, and like all this stuff. And my uncle mediated some talks between me and my mom. So my uncle suggested having somebody else be an intermediary. They took us up to Genoa Baptist, and we met with the pastor there. So then after everyone talked to everyone, they decided that we would go to CORE. You're going to talk to somebody named Catherine. She's really good with people in your situation and all this stuff. And I was just like, okay. I was like, sure, she is. And I was expecting somebody really old and decrepit. Just because everyone I had encountered had been like, oh yeah, she's had so many years doing this and all this stuff. And I walked in, and like, Catherine's got this big smile on her face. She's wearing colorful scrubs. And I was just like, who is this person? I was like, I don't know that I want to talk to her. she became a friend. We didn't just talk about pregnancy and all the drama that was happening with me. We just became friends. And at the time, my parents had decided that we were going to give the baby up for adoption. So I was trying really hard not to get attached, and I was trying really hard to just be okay with everything that was happening. And a couple weeks later, my uncle had apparently talked to my parents saying that he would adopt the child, and I trust him a lot. I was basically his child growing up. And so I was like, okay. I was like, I think I can deal with that. I thought I could deal with that. So I'm giving birth to my son, and I was trying really hard not to get attached because I wasn't going to get to hold him or anything. I didn't want to get too attached. He was going to my uncle, all this stuff. I just didn't want to connect in that way. My uncle knows me very well, so he came in with his wife, and I felt so terribly guilty because I didn't want them to take my son. And they had just lost their daughter a year ago. At that time, it was a year ago, and she was stillborn, and they wanted something else to fill that gap. And I felt like it was what I owed him. I don't know if that makes any sense, because he took care of me and we were very close when I was little, and I was like, if I can do this one thing for him, it won't be so bad. So he came in and he was like, I know, he's like, your parents can pressure you and all this stuff, and he's like, I care about you. He's like, we've been very close since you were very young. He's like, I want to know what you want. Okay. And that was the first time that somebody had asked me that, and I felt genuinely meant it, other than Catherine, because she can't really do anything about it. So, sorry, I'm gonna tissue again. So I looked at his wife because I didn't want him making decisions for her. I at that point I knew what it felt like to be, a mom in a way, and feel like your baby was going to be taken away. I just remember asking her, I remember saying, like, do you think that this is what God wants? I didn't even ask if it was what she wants or whatever. I was like, what do you think that God wants? And she was like, your uncle and I have been talking. She's like, I had a really weird dream yesterday. And she was like, I dreamt that you were his mom, and that you were like holding a bunch of stuff and taking care of him, and like, she's like, those busy moms you see on TV and stuff and commercials. And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, it was you. She's like, and you were doing that. And she's like, I don't think that after that I could take him, even if I wanted him. And she's like, and I do. And she's like, if you still want me to take him, she's like, I'll respect that. She's like, but I don't think that that's what God wants. And then my mom was like, well, since he's coming homeless, she's like, you might as well hold him. And I think that was the happiest time the entire time I was there. I got to hold him, and he just kept making like sucking faces. And he actually opened his eyes most of the way too. Before, he had just been kind of squinting, and I just remember when I held him, he like opened his eyes all the way, and then he like rolled up and looked at me. And I was like, I held him and I told him, I was like, I love you. And I said, I fought so hard for you. Did you? And I was like, I love you very much, and I promise that no matter what, I won't let any of the fighting or any of the drama or any of it affect you. I was like, I will protect you. Then I put him in his little crib so that I could arrange for everything at home to be set up, because we had nothing. So we went to court, we got diapers and some other stuff, and we had people donating car seats and stuff. And I missed a lot of firsts. I didn't have an ideal situation. I didn't get a lot of things that a lot of moms get, even ones in a situation similar to mine. And while it hurts, it was completely worth it. Yeah, it was completely worth it, because he's the best thing ever. And if it weren't for him, I wouldn't probably be doing anything now with my life. And I'm in school, and I'm really fighting hard to be a better person and to fight for what I want instead of just laying down and letting other people dictate for me. And I think that the only reason I got through it really was I had support from Core. I had that little escape once a week to just make it through, and it was a provision from God. It really was. I got connected with Core's mom's group, and though we don't hang out, we're all very, very supportive of each other and everything, and we contact each other and check up on each other and stuff, and it was not anything what I expected it to be, but it was exactly what I needed.